Today we're talking about 10 dark fantasy movies with magic and horrors. Now this is not a top 10 because this is actually a sequel to a video that I did a few months back on my top 10 fairy tale horror movies, and there's not going to be any crossover movies between the two lists. So if there's a film you're shocked is not here, it's probably on that one. With that said, my name is Daniel with the Cobwebs channel, and let's get started.
The Brothers Grimm.
The Brothers Grimm from 2005. Folklore collectors and con artists Jake and Will Grimm travel from village to village pretending to protect townsfolk from enchanted creatures and performing exorcisms. However, they are put to the test when they encounter a real curse in a haunted forest with real magical beings. This is one I've been curious about ever since I was a kid, but I always wrote it off just for the fact that it's starring Matt Damon. The idea of Matt Damon in a period piece European fantasy movie seems so ridiculous to me because he seems so modern and American. But here he is, along with Heath Ledger as the Brothers Grimm, and I actually think they both do a really good job. Matt Damon is surprisingly good here. You can really tell this came out in the wake of Van Helsing and Pirates of the Caribbean. It actually shares several cast members in common with Pirates of the Caribbean, but it's also directed by Terry Gilliam, so it's just a little bit weirder and more quirky than you might expect. I really enjoyed this. It goes all in on being a fairy tale adventure film. The atmosphere is great. They built such a cool set to be the enchanted forest where a lot of this takes place. You get a lot of magical creatures and even Monica Bellucci as a scary evil queen that they have to face down. Unfortunately, it never reaches the highs that I think the first Pirates of the Caribbean does. The story is never quite thrilling enough. The action scenes never that intense. And even the main characters just never quite get there. I really like the actors, but Heath Ledger is the awkward, lovable one, but he's never quite lovable enough. Matt Damon is the cool guy, but he's never quite cool enough. It's like there was this little secret sauce that was missing, and there is a gingerbread man scene that's maybe one of the worst things to ever make it into a mainstream blockbuster, and yet I'm strangely glad it did. This is really a relic from another time, 20 years ago. It reminds me of the kind of movies that I grew up with, so there's a nostalgic quality to it, even though I didn't see it back then, but it's still even a little bit unusual for that time. I enjoyed this. Legend from 1985, which follows a mystical forest dweller who undertakes a heroic quest to save the princess and defeat the demonic Lord of Darkness, or the world will be plunged into a never-ending ice age. Ridley Scott's Legend might be the most stunningly beautiful visual representation of a fairy tale world ever captured on film. I can't even believe how lush, how gorgeous every frame of this mythical forest is that's inhabited by fairies, goblins, unicorns. If you're just interested in that kind of lore, in those kind of legends, this movie is going to give you so many incredible visual representations of it. I mean, I love the goblins especially. They look so cool. And what would a dark fantasy fairy tale adventure movie be without a great villain? And my God, does Legend ever have one? Tim Curry as Darkness, who is essentially the devil. And Tim Curry is awesome here. I can't believe how incredible the makeup design with him is, created by Rob Bottin, and all the stuff between him and the princess, played by Mia Sara, the princess he's captured, is so compelling, so interesting. I just love all that. It's a shame that the film does not have a great hero, and that's what holds me back a little bit on this one. Tom Cruise is the lead, an actor that I usually love, but something is just missing with him, his performance. The characterization is almost non-existent with him, and he spends most of his screen time interacting with a troupe that follows him around of an elf, a fairy, some troll kind of dudes, and none of that is just as interesting as anything going on with Lord of Darkness. I would imagine teenage girls watching this, especially in the 80s, would not have this problem. They'd probably love Tom Cruise, but I feel like I just want more of like a badass hero or something. Although he does have some flickers of greatness in the third act, like I really love the I trust you moment. That works so well. All this, and I haven't even mentioned the incredible score by Tangerine Dream that creates such a mystical, fantastical atmosphere here. In the theatrical cut, at least, there's a different score in the director's cut, which I do really want to check out on this Blu-ray. I wonder if it deepens the story a little bit more. But the theatrical cut, at least, is a really immersive fantasy adventure world, and I do love to spend time in it.
For you, the first to have laid eyes upon the new Messiah.
Warlock from 1985. In 17th century New England, a witch hunter tries to capture an evil warlock. When a spell sends them both into the future, they find themselves in the 1980s, and the warlock plans to bring about the end of the world. This is probably the greatest male witch movie ever committed to film, and I love the period piece opening to this. It's just such a classic witch hunting story, starring Richard E. Grant, who's an actor that I really like, hunting down this warlock played by Julian Sands, who is phenomenal here. Julian Sands is the show. He is the reason to check out this film. And all that stuff is so good that it almost makes me sad that we go into present day, but that does lead to a really fun fish out of water movie where these guys from the distant past are trying to understand the modern world, especially Richard E. Grant pairing up with a worldly woman played by Laurie Singer who shows him the ropes. And it is a little weird to me that the plot ends up taking this path of her getting this enchantment turning her old, and we get a lot of really weird, kind of goofy makeup effects and body horror type stuff. It's an odd choice, but it's always fun. If you love folk horror movies, you probably know that they tend to be really serious, really grim, and this is a rare case where you can watch a really fun folk horror movie, a popcorn movie. You can just kick back, have a good time, and still get those kind of magical, witchy vibes that you tend to love from folk horror films. So I always have a great time revisiting Warlock.
1 year hence.
The Green Knight from 2021. This is such a cool movie, and one that I am so happy and shocked that it even exists. This is essentially a psychedelic horror Arthurian legend. What it really feels like to me is John Borman's Excalibur filtered through Robert Eggers' The Witch. And that is such an amazing vibe for a movie. The story, which is of course based on the Arthurian legend of Sir Gawain, is so compelling as Sir Gawain has to go confront the Green Knight who he decapitated, but who promises to do the same to him from beyond the grave. And he's got to make this journey, meet his destiny. And Dev Patel turned out to be such an awesome choice for the lead. The flip side of my complaints with Tom Cruise in Legend, Dev Patel is cool. He is a badass. He is an awesome lead for this. I just love him. And visually, it is such an astounding achievement for a $15 million budget. I mean, this thing puts practically every $250 million blockbuster to shame. The visuals are incredible. It's so well directed by David Lowery. For some people, I know this is going to be a little bit too artsy for its own good, and I will admit it's a little long. It's about 2 hours and 10 minutes, and you're going to have to sit through a lot of monologues, and I don't think all of them really add a lot, but it does have a great supporting cast that makes it enjoyable to watch. A lot of great people surrounding Dev Patel. I think The Green Knight is a special movie because of how incredibly unique it is, and I'm so glad it exists. Valerie and Her Week of Wonders from 1970. It's a surreal Czech New Wave fantasy movie in which a young girl's coming of age unfolds through a dreamlike series of encounters with vampires, lecherous priests, and strange villagers. This is one I really wanted to put on my top 10 fairy tale horror movies list, but I didn't because it's not actually based on any fairy tales. It's based on a book from the 1930s. But the feeling of it is so perfect for fairy tale horror. I would compare it a lot to The Company of Wolves in that it's this very young girl's coming of age story through fairy tale, fantasy, scary type stuff. Ultimately, it's a vampire movie first and foremost, and a really good version of it. I love the main vampire here. His look is very inspired by the classic Count Orlok Nosferatu. I love that kind of look, but he is a thinking, speaking, intelligent character in here, which is my favorite kind of vampire character. Just the imagery of him and his hood and cloak leading her into his very spooky spooky, dark lair. And he actually came with a spooky carnival. I love scary carnival stuff, so that's all good. There's a lot of interesting coming-of-age type themes in here. The lead actress is excellent, as is everybody in the movie. And the filmmaking is so interesting. It's very like surreal, which isn't always my kind of thing, but I really liked it here. I just found this consistently beautiful, compelling, and creepy.
You want a child? A violent desire such as yours can only be satisfied with violence.
Tale of Tales from 2015, which is a lavish, dark fantasy anthology weaving 3 interlocking stories of kings, queens, and mythical creatures, all adapted from 17th century Italian fairy tales. This is one I knew probably should have been on my top 10 fairy tale horror movies list, but it wasn't because I just didn't get around to seeing it. I've seen it now, and wow, this is a very interesting, super unique movie. It was made on a budget of $14.5 million, which on one hand, I'm kind of shocked they got that much money for it because it's so not a commercial kind of movie. But on the other hand, they did so much with that relatively small budget. This is a great looking movie. They really did create a whole fantasy fairy tale kind of world here. It has a very eclectic, kind of unexpected cast starring people like Salma Hayek, Vincent Cassel, Toby Jones, John C. Reilly as a king. He seems like a really strange choice, but he actually pulled it off. This is usually classified as a horror film, though it doesn't exactly function as one. It does have monsters, gore, and some really dark subject matter. So you got 3 fairy tales here, right? They're interwoven, so it's not like you're just gonna watch ABC. I think it'd be hard for me to deny that the best one is The Flea, which is the one starring Toby Jones. It is the one that ruined my life. Like, I was throttled by this story. I hated it because it is so dark. It is so miserable. I was just arrested by this story. The other ones are really solid too. There isn't a bad part of this movie, and it creates such a lavish world. This isn't exactly a thrill ride kind of movie. It will take its time, and it's one for you to just really sink into. I really liked this movie by the end of it. I thought it was so unique, so interesting.
A dragon, fire and stench. It is evil.
Dragonslayer.
Dragonslayer from 1981. A sorcerer and his apprentice are on a mission to kill an evil dragon to save the king's daughter from being sacrificed according to a pact that the king himself made with the dragon to protect his kingdom. When it comes to fantasy movies, I think my heart truly lies with 80s fantasy films. That's my favorite decade for the genre, and Dragonslayer is undoubtedly one of my favorite 80s fantasy movies. I love how classic it is, being about trying to save a princess from a dragon. It's timeless kind of storytelling, but it does have some unexpected twists. Like, it's not about a big brave knight. It's a young sorcerer's apprentice. He's played by Peter MacNicol, who's an unusual choice for the lead of a big action adventure movie. I usually only see him in supporting roles, but he does a great job as our unexpected hero, and he has a great relationship with another character played by Caitlin Clark, so it's got a little bit of twists on the save the princess sort of thing. I think it's really successful at creating a fairy tale world. I love the sorcerer and magic angles to it, but it's the dragon that is the star of the show, because I do think Dragonslayer has got the best dragon ever put on screen. It's entirely practical. This effect took up 25% of the film's budget. They spent so much to bring this thing to life, and they couldn't cut corners with CGI. There's so many CGI dragons in movies and TV shows today. Here, it's puppetry, it's animatronics, and it's so good. I think it looks absolutely incredible. Even to this day, it holds up. Dragonslayer is a genuinely really fun adventure fantasy movie.
I will avenge you, father! I will save you, mother! I will kill you, Fiona!
The Northman from 2022. Prince Amleth is on the verge of becoming a man when his father is brutally murdered by his uncle, who kidnaps his mother. 2 decades later, Amleth is now a Viking who is on a mission to save his mother, kill his uncle, and avenge his father. The Northman is, of course, from Robert Eggers, and while I do think it's his most mainstream, accessible film he's ever made, it's still such a unique film that I think its existence is so remarkable. It's really like the ultimate Viking movie. There aren't a lot of Viking movies, and if you would know any other great Viking movies, please let me know down in the comments below. I would love to check them out. But The Northman does such an incredible job pulling from that history, from that time period. Robert Eggers is a filmmaker who is obsessed with history, so he does that. But something that I love about him that makes him so unique is he also pulls from the beliefs of the time, the legends of the culture. So The Northman is ultimately a Viking revenge movie, but it's still got hints of magic, of fantasy, of things that Vikings truly believed in this period. And I love that. It just creates such an immersive world. The cast here is amazing. Like Ethan Hawke, Willem Dafoe are so perfect as these crazy Viking dudes. You're gonna see Viking men like strip down and crawl around on all fours around a fire and howl at the moon. Like it's just the most crazy masculine energy you're ever gonna see, and I love it. And Alexander Skarsgård is truly awesome in the lead role, and I love Anya Taylor-Joy as well. They actually have like this beautiful relationship in the middle of this savage, violent revenge movie. It is incredibly violent. It has battle scenes that go beyond brutal and a final end fight scene that is like, I think, one for the ages, but it's still got a lot of quiet moments. It's got a very interesting story. It takes a slower approach to the revenge than you might be expecting, and I think it does it really well, always staying really, really interesting. When I first saw The Northman in theaters, I was totally blown away. I just felt like I'd never seen anything like it. It's another example of why Robert Eggers is right near the top of modern filmmakers for me. This is so my thing.
Have you ever heard of Megara?
Megara.
It's said that when mortals looked upon her face, they were turned to stone.
The Gorgon from 1964. In the early 20th century, a village experiences a series of inexplicable murders. All the victims were young men who had been turned to stone. This is a classic Hammer horror film made by their most successful, most prolific director, Terrence Fisher. And Terrence Fisher was a guy who didn't consider that he made horror movies, which is a shockingly common thing for horror filmmakers, and it gets kind of annoying. But in Terrence Fisher's case, I think it's interesting because he considered that he made adult fairy tales. And I think this is the movie where that makes the most sense, because The Gorgon isn't based on any kind of Gothic literature. It's based on Greek mythology. It is about a Medusa monster, and there are so few Medusa monster horror movies. I mean, I can't believe a movie studio put their best talent, their best resources they could into a horror movie about Medusa. It's starring 3 of Hammer's greatest regular stars: Peter Cushing with epic sideburns, Christopher Lee as a brilliant dashing hero with an epic mustache. This is an amazing movie for facial hair, by the way. And their biggest female star of the 60s, Barbara Shelley, who I'm like ridiculously in love with in this movie. Even for Hammer, this is an astoundingly beautiful, lavish production with incredible sets. And beneath all the horror, it's actually a very heartfelt, Gothic fairy tale love story at the center between Barbara Shelley and Richard Pascal, who's also really good here. But it's also a moodier and more subtly creepy movie for Hammer. It's got monster effects, which don't necessarily age the best, but it's a practical effect, so I still love it. Beheadings, people turned to stone. There's so much cool stuff to be found in The Gorgon. It's really one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
I have returned to wage war and reclaim our land.
You woke up the baby.
Hellboy 2: The Golden Army from 2008, which finds Hellboy and his team facing an elven prince who plans to awaken an unstoppable mechanical army to reclaim the world from humanity. Something I haven't talked about much on this channel is I'm actually a big Hellboy guy. I love Hellboy, particularly Guillermo del Toro's movies. I do really enjoy his first Hellboy, and that's the one that feels more Lovecraftian cosmic horror, and it's got Rasputin Gorgon as the main villain, very occulty, but the sequel feels more influenced by fantasy, and surprisingly, I think the sequel is way better. Unlike the first one, this ditches our boring human audience surrogate character and just focuses on Hellboy, Abe, and Liz, who are such an incredible trio. I love these characters so much. They're all perfect casting, and Ron Perlman is so good as Hellboy. I really struggle to see anyone else in the role. I think it's one of the best superhero castings ever made. And Del Toro creates such a mythical fantasy world with so many different creatures and monsters and goblins and trolls. I mean, the Angel of Death that shows up in the third act is one of the most haunting creatures I've ever seen in a movie. And as another improvement to the first film, this has a way better villain. Luke Goss is awesome as this elven prince. His martial arts, his incredible fighting, his swords, it's all so cool, and he's such an intricate, multi-layered character. Hellboy 2 is a major favorite for me. I think it's one of the best superhero movies and absolutely one of the best dark fantasy movies ever made. Before I go, I just want to send out a massive thank you to my patrons who truly make this channel possible. Thank you guys so much for supporting me while I do this. And if anyone else wants to support me, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. And I want to give a special shout out to Colin Solomon, Zombies Ate My Arm, and Ted's Jam. You guys are the absolute best. If you want to check any of these movies out for yourself, I do have streaming recommendations right here on the screen and physical media links in the description, and using those does help support the channel. What are your favorite dark fantasy movies? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you want to hang out with me more, click on the video on the screen. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to enjoy yourselves today. Have some fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye.